I question how the president of this nation has it in his heart to consider this without also expressing and working to fulfill the need for reparations for Black people who have endured generations of physical and relational, psychological, legislative, and yes, economic trauma. As my father said, we must recognize that we can't solve our problem now until there is a radical redistribution of economic and political power. This radical redistribution must include, in my words, comprehensive reparations for Black people.
Awaken with Empress Nandi.
Ain't nobody will catch me, I'm divine energy. Don't you think my shine sexy, my chakras gleam gleam. Ain't nobody will catch me, my third eye clearly sees. And we are the wokest motherships upon the planet. No bell is falling, ain't no need to panic. My frequency's electromagnetic. Blessed to have the star seed genetics. We are the wokest motherships upon the planet. No bell is falling, ain't no need to panic. My frequency's electromagnetic. Ain't nobody will catch me, I'm divine energy. Don't you think my shine sexy, my chakras gleam gleam. Ain't nobody will catch me, my third eye clearly sees. And we are the wokest motherships upon the planet.
Let's not forget how many martyrs we put in the ground in the 60s and 70s. Let's not forget how many of our leaders had to leave the country or are in prison. You've stripped out a whole generation of leadership. You ran them out the country, you put them in prison, you put them in cemeteries. You can tell the story of white leadership in America and never mention the FBI one time. You can't tell the story of Black leadership, not one, without having to deal with the full weight of the criminal justice system weaponized against Black dissent.
I'm tired of living every day under the threat of death. I have no martyr complex. I want to live as long as anybody in this building tonight.
Dr. King, people forget, was not this beloved figure that everybody wants to put on a pedestal. He was considered one of the most dangerous people in America by the head of the Federal Bureau of Investigations.
People really get in their feelings when you start talking about race. Now, it would be understandable if I was talking about race from a perspective of actually being a racist, from a perspective that would marginalize people and actually extract them from the algorithm of life. But that is absolutely not what we're doing here. In fact, we're doing the opposite. We are shedding light on what the life experience on Earth is for the Aboriginal person. I am an Aboriginal woman navigating a planet that's been bastardized by an international system of racism. The entire system across the planet is designed intentionally to marginalize me, to keep me out of the flow of success, while simultaneously keeping me in the system to continue to generate wealth for the oppressor within the system. Every minute detail of my existence is infiltrated by racist ideologies, racist laws, racist operational procedures, racist interpretation and execution, public brutality and fatalities, all executed without consequence, repercussion, or recourse. I am God's first Homo sapiens sapien, the original, the blueprint, the progenitor of all races, all creeds, and colors of humanity. I am fully melanated and fully operational. I am the oldest DNA on the planet. Every other race was literally birthed from me. A normal day for me is never benign. If you are fully melanated, a normal day means there is a perpetual target on your back, and the probability of you becoming a fatality is pretty significant. Imagine living in a world where it is legal to box you out of opportunities for success, where the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and all the other fancy declarations omit protection of your life, liberty, and person. Imagine being a gracious host to visitors, and in return, they steal your life, your wife, land, legacy, language, history, culture, customs, traditions, inventions, and spirituality. Imagine being literally ripped from the pages of history while your inventions and accomplishments are credited to an imposter. The world has been brainwashed to see my melanin as inherently criminal, yet I am in fact a victim of the most heinous, atrocious crimes against humanity. There is an international all points bulletin, a war against my melanin. There is this dichotomous oxymoron where society both fears and reveres melanin. Melanin is magical and necessary for life. My melanin is seen as a threat of extinction to those with recessive DNA. White privilege is a direct result of crimes against melanated people across the globe. Mass murder, enslavement, domestic terrorism, fear-mongering, and mass indoctrination have been used as weapons of mass destruction. Meanwhile, melanin is the most prized possession on the planet. We are literally being hunted and organs removed.
You know the reason that slave movies get put out like every year, every other year, every few years? The reason them slave movies get put out is because it is a mental image of our people thinking that they came from some other place. The power in those images put it in your mind that you're not actually from the land that you're standing on. They put it in your mind that you got brought over here from somewhere else. It's called disconnection. Whole time, in reality, you already been here. Your ancestors have already been in these lands, the Americas, known as Moorish Americans. That is the reason why so-called black people think that they're actually not American. But in reality, you are the true Americans of the land that you're standing on. The whole black-white thing has been Europeans who are not Americans. They're not Americans. They live in America. Even if they was born in America, that don't make them American. They're not American. You the Americans. So since your nationality is not being enforced, Europeans are saying that they're Americans in your place. All you gotta do is declare your nationality and stand up.
Black people, let me break down to you the real reason President Biden is giving reparations and financial resources to every other community except for the African American community, which his government has committed 400 years of genocide on and has treated the worst, and also the same community he thanked for getting into office. I think it's quite funny that President Biden wants to give $450,000 to immigrant families under what the Trump administration did, but is not going to give reparations to the African American community, to which he created the treacherous 1994 crime bill that has devastated African American communities in the past and is still devastating our community today. But a lot of Black people were so excited when he said that he wanted to study reparations for Black people at the beginning of the year. Not actually give it to us, but just study and see if we need it. 400 years of intentional genocide does not need to be studied by the same people who are continuously intentionally committing genocide on our community right now. But this is how they trick you into voting for them, getting them into office, and then they literally leave you with nothing year after year after year. Gave the Asian American community $50 million. The same year their hate crimes popped up into existence. $500 million for Afghanistan refugees who just got here. $235 million in U.S. aid to Palestinians who don't even live here. Black people, a lot of us falsely believe that the reason that we are not given reparations from America is because we are not important or we are not a priority. But it's actually the opposite. America thrives off of our suffering and our economic dependency on America. America bombed all 60 of our successful Black-owned towns, not just Black Wall Street, because she cannot have us economically thriving. How many other communities have had their businesses destroyed by America, have slave codes and Jim Crow laws set up to make sure that we cannot economically thrive? Nobody but us Black people. How many other communities have had their leaders killed to prevent us from having any type of Black unity? The counterintelligence program of America goes after Black leaders. You don't see Asian American leaders being killed. You don't see Hispanic American leaders being killed. You see our Black leaders being killed, or any high-profile Black person who tries to bring about Black unity being targeted and attacked. Malcolm X, Fred Hampton, Martin Luther King were not killed by our Black people. They know that Black people coming together, Black unity, Black masculinity is the biggest threat to white supremacy in their world. Yeah, they can dish out money to other communities, but they won't be dishing it to you. Like I said before, they know the power of our Black unity. It's us who sleep on the power of our Black unity and ourselves being the solution, because we're too busy going to vote for presidents who do nothing for us.
Why does racism exist? The white folks that we interact with on a daily basis have no intentions of letting us know why, so let me go ahead and break it down. The people that classify themselves as white love to say that Black people are a minority, when in fact we are not a minority, but it's in fact them that are minorities. Not only do white people make up less than 9% of the world population, they are also what we call genetically recessive, meaning their genes, regardless of who they mix with, are masked, or the appearance of who they are isn't shown forth in the strongest propensity. You have 5 groups of people of color. You have the Black man, the brown man, the red man, the yellow man, and the white man. When we come into contact, whether it be a Black man or a Black woman with a white woman or a white man, although each offspring has a copy of the dominant gene and the recessive gene, because we as Black people are genetically dominant, we mask the appearance of whiteness. We can look at Barack Obama, an African father and a European mother, but apparently still Black. We can look at Marie. Marie has one Asian parent and one Black parent. However, she's still Black. Always remember, the very first individual that was found in this world was a Black queen by the name of Dinkesh. In my very first video, I named her Lucy. That is the European term. Dinkesh was found in Ethiopia, showing that not only is Africa the origins of all humanity and civilization, but it was in fact that a Black woman that birthed all of us. All of our mitochondrial DNA will lead back to. So any misunderstandings on who came first was discovered years ago. But why does racism exist? How have we not, as Black people, been able to love them enough, pray them enough, been tolerant enough, diversify enough, integrate enough? Why has, no matter what we've done to show this group of people that we're non-threatening and that we're no issue, does it not make a difference? It stems from the fear of going extinct of white people. Now, if you're the smallest group of people in the world, you're making up less than 9%. You're dying off sooner than you're being born. And then you're genetically recessive. What must you do to ensure that you do not go extinct? To ensure you have the best opportunity of living for the next 2 centuries. You must always kill the dominant gene being African people. You must incarcerate the dominant gene because this leads to decreased procreation. You are decreasing the probability of them having children. This is a numbers game. You must always come up with lofty tricks to depopulate. It's about white folks not being genetically annihilated and black folks not being able to procreate our genetic dominancy. Why does it seem like the darker black person gets treated the worst? Because you have more melanin pigment, therefore you are more of a threat. And many of us cannot truly grasp that we cannot love them out of this. We cannot pray them out of this. It's a matter of life or death for them. And the sooner you, black person, understand that, the sooner you will stop wasting your time and everything that is happening to you, you'll understand, okay? The sooner we'll understand, oh, that's why you keep throwing black men in prison. You throw black men in prison because you don't want them to have children. You are turning black men and black women gay and lesbian.
You know, when I was singing rock and roll, at that time they would call black music race music. When I sung rock and roll, I was on RCA Victor before Elvis Presley, but they wouldn't put me on RCA. They put me on Camden. So when I would wear makeup, they would let me sing for the white girls. When I put on eyelashes and all that, they would let me sing. But when I went as a just straight dude, they would let me sing.
Now, why is that?
Well, they thought I wanted the girls. So if I came out a straight guy, they wouldn't let me sing. But when I came out with all the makeup on and all the eyelashes and all the hair, they said, Richard is a good boy. I know I was a good man, but I was a good boy.
Now, who is they that you're talking about here?
Some of the whites in Macon, where I'm from, I came from a little town. Yeah. You know, it was real prejudice back in that time.
Now, this is...
Enjoying the show? Excellent. Hit that like button, please, and thank you. If you've been blessed by my content and want to buy a goddess some sage or crystals, hit up my PayPal or Cash App. Sharing is caring. Tell your friends about the channel and share this video. The more engagement we have, the better we perform in the algorithm. So let's get those likes up. And don't leave out of here without telling us how you really feel. So drop those comments below. Now, back to the show.
Aunt Jemima does not belong on the front of a pancake box. But why should you care? She's a respectable black lady. You even heard that she became wealthy and her family loved that she was on that box and was super disappointed when she was taken off, right? Wrong. There is no such person as Aunt Jemima. That name was taken from a minstrel character from the 1850s. A white man dressed up like a stereotypical enslaved black mammy. He put on blackface and entertained white crowds while speaking in so-called slave talk, making fun of a subservient black woman. The name itself is a colloquialization of Aunt Jemima because she took care of white people's children. And no, that is not just a schoolyard joke. There's a reason it makes sense. Using that name for a brand is just as preposterous as using Uncle Tom or Little Sambo. Now, the character's gone through many updates over the years to modernize her, make her appear less mammy-like, less slave-like, but it's the equivalent of putting lipstick on a pig. It's still a mammy. In part 2, I'm going to tell you about the women who portrayed Aunt Jemima and what their families have said about their images being removed from the product.
If you were not loyal to black people before you got rich, you definitely will not be loyal to black people after you get rich. But let's go further. During slavery, when a rebellious slave misbehaved, what would they do? They would put him out in front of all the slaves, and they would whip him and tar and feather him and lynch him as a message to the others. Every generation, white America makes a sacrifice of a black celebrity. Look at your entire life. I've been on the planet 45 years. Every generation of my life, every decade, white America finds a celebrity that they put out and destroy them as a reminder to LeBron and Oprah and Lee Daniels and Tyler Perry and everyone else. Jay-Z, Beyonce. Don't forget, you might be a billionaire, but remember who helped you make that money. At the end of the day, y'all got the money, but we got the power. That's why they don't mind signing a $100 million contract. Because everybody in your circle is white. Your agent is white. Your lawyer is white. Your publicist is white. Your banker is white. The person selling you the car is white. So do you know what a black celebrity really is? He's a water sprinkler. He's a redistributor of white wealth. Because you can't use that money to help your own people. The reason they don't help us is because the white man has made it clear. Number one, white people will not support black people who are loyal to black folks. You cannot become a popular celebrity in America if you are unapologetic. It's impossible. You must do what? Compromise.
Because first of all, only white people need shots to go to Africa. Black people don't need no shots. The same way they told you AIDS started in Africa.
Wow.
You could die from malaria. They told you all this stuff. None of that stuff is real.
Wow.
Wow. You know, they tell you, well, you go to Africa, you gotta take, shots. And you gotta take like 5 or 6 different, types of shots to save you from this, save you from that, save you from this.
Why does that rumor even exist, though?
I mean, because they know the value of black people going back home. Can you just imagine if African Americans in America decided, you know what, man, fuck America, we going back home. And then all the value that we bring here, we took over there. Just imagine, man, all the major ball players left, started their own team back home. All the major recording artists left, started their own labels back home. Just imagine, just those 2 sectors. We're not talking about all the inventors that never got the credit for all the shit that they invented, like cell phones and all that black people invented. You would never even know. All these software companies that's taking, you have no idea, like, we don't even know how much value.
Dozens of leaked text messages revealed ongoing racist, xenophobic, sexist, and homophobic messages traded by current and former police officers in Torrance, California. In fact, the messages are so awful that there is now a full-blown investigation into the police department by California's Attorney General. We'll give you details on that in just a second, but you must be wondering, well, how bad were they? What was included in these text messages? Was it innuendo? No, it was pretty brazen. The caption read, okay, so in one picture that was exchanged in these messages, there were several black men who were depicted as being lynched. Okay, so we're already talking about some pretty hideous behavior. And the caption read, "Hanging with the homies." Another photo asked what someone should do if their girlfriend was having an affair with a black man. The answer, according to the caption, was to break a taillight on his car so the police will stop him and shoot him. They're not holding back at all.
Cops seem to understand cops, at least.
They're sharing these text messages with one another. Like, it is being documented. Okay, so there's evidence of this. It just keeps getting worse. Officers called black men savages and several variations of the N-word. The officers also shared instructions on how to tie a noose and a picture of a stuffed animal being lynched inside Torrance's police headquarters, according to the documents.
The planet is so brainwashed that we no longer recognize things that are illogical or nonsensical. So someone can get angry at me for expressing how racism affects me, but not get angry about the racism that exists. I mean, this is a sign of mental illness. If you're comfortable with the status quo, then you're not a friend, definitely a foe. The status quo don't want me here no more. Will execute me and stomp me on the floor, on TV for all to know. And my perpetrator to jail, he doesn't go. So miss me with your feelings. This is not about you. This is about the Aboriginal man and woman, the one who birthed you. This is about making things right and civilized. This is about recognizing the value of my life. I gave birth to you. Show some respect.
There is nothing more sinister to a properly functioning society than for it to be led by hypocrites, or for hypocrites to have the positions of power and authority needed to disadvantage those who were foolish or naive enough to have voluntarily overlooked the hypocrisy evident in whatever caricature or institution that is attempting to gain power or indeed already has gained it. So before I allow this federally specious holiday to pass us by, I do want to use it as a valid and identifiable reference point to address my above statement. But first, in the interest of context, I must say this of our great elder Martin Luther King Jr. MLK was practical, and in that practicality, he did not find it lucrative for black people to defend themselves because they were thoroughly outnumbered in America. Now, on the surface, what that observation did was overtly cast an impression that black people were better off subservient. This was an erroneous observation that even I, in my youth, believed he advocated, when by implication of the words alone, it does not relate that fact. Rather, it identified his belief that there were not enough good white people in America to assist us in fighting off the ones that were oppressing us. Stated another way, MLK's nonviolent stance was based upon a reasonable assumption that we were not in a position to address our oppression using violence. It was not that violence could not be used then, it was simply that it should not be used under our given set of circumstances. Though I still disagree with even that nuanced observation on a personal and moral basis, I still am practical enough to identify its practicalities. To that end, when Martin Luther King's practicalities began to deviate from what the dominant society wanted of black people at that time, and to this day really, they just killed.
Do we really know who we are? Do we know the powers that we were born with? Do we know why when all other races have 6 strands of DNA, we were blessed with 9? Do you know the reason why the Europeans have it out for us? Do you know why we are the laughingstock of this planet? We will never know until we grow some spine and rise up. We are the only people who call ourselves dogs, and when we keep getting kicked, we never bite. We have no problem taking out our rage against one another, but we have a mental lapse when it comes to our oppressors. We would rather twerk than read. We would rather sag than learn. We love the he say, she say, hearsay, but we don't search for our own information. We listen to the preacher read and understand the Bible for us. That's unintelligent intelligence. We say this isn't a real reality. If we know that, then why don't we use our gifts to alter this reality? Many of us who have the understanding already do. Instead of using our tools, the ones who speak are viewed as fools. We are nothing because we want to be nothing. We are still marching and trying to overcome. We need to pull up our pants and become. We like to be cool and trending while befriending our oppressors. In this current time, our greatest oppressors are ourselves. There are a group of us who would do whatever it takes for us not to succeed. There are a group of blacks put strategically in places to ensure that their plan is fulfilled. We'll just call them the ones who used to cook and clean for the masters while the others worked.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Peace. Amen Ra.